Hello and welcome to the very first edition of Over the Top News. Let's get started. My name is Tej Joshi, and thank you all so much for watching Over the Top News. Let's start with some headlines from this past week. Earlier this week, this man known for his heartthrob-inducing effects announced that marijuana will be legal in Canada on October 17th. Some Canadian provinces, overjoyed with excitement, have already filed for name changes. Potential names include Patawa, Bongtario, and lastly, New Brunswick. Here in the States, many people are also excited about the new policy, including Golden State Warriors guard Nick Young.
Canada just passed the legalization of marijuana. It's the first country in the world.
The first country?
The first country in the world to pass the legalization of marijuana across the nation.
I want people to pass cocaine. Everybody needs to do cocaine.
Just a quick correction, Canada is actually the second country to legalize marijuana after Uruguay. But more importantly, I think Nick Young is next in line for a random NBA drug test. Our next story starts with a big statement from our president.
I'm hereby directing the Department of Defense and Pentagon to immediately begin the process necessary to establish a Space Force as the sixth branch of the armed forces. That's a big statement.
The Pentagon, or should I say the newly named Hexagon, now with 6 branches, and this is true, can legally be defined as a bonsai tree. Also this week, 9,000 barrels of bourbon were destroyed in a building collapse in Kentucky. Kentucky state officials are now attempting to register the distillery as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, calling it a truly intoxicating view. And now to our top story of the night, which is centered around this man, Senator Richard Burr of North Carolina. Yes, this Richard Burr.
Listen, I'm not opposed. We manufacture a lot of socks in North Carolina. I just choose not to wear them.
This sockless senator made news this week when he voted against his fellow Republicans to reject spending cuts. What's most interesting is the reason he rejected the bill. He was concerned that the bill would cut $16 million in projects for the Land and Water Conservation Fund. Here he is defending the fiscal merits of the LWCF.
This is one of the most important conservation programs in America, and taxpayers are the beneficiaries of it, not the funders of it. Thank you.
It's great to see politicians supporting conservation, but what exactly is conservation? This week, I went down to Zoo Miami to speak with their Director of Communications, Ron Magil, to find out what conservation really is. So Ron, what exactly is conservation?
You know, conservation is making people understand. There's an old saying that says we have not inherited this earth from our parents, we are borrowing it from our children. And the premise of that is to say that what we see here today, it's our responsibility to make sure it's there for our kids tomorrow and their kids after that. We have to conserve that, we have to protect it, and in order to protect it, we have to conserve certain things, whether it be water usage, whether it be forest and habitats. You have to protect those things. They're not an infinite resource, and I think that's changing now. I think people are seeing that because when I was a kid, I never heard about recycling. I drove the biggest, baddest hot rod in the world. It got like -7 miles to the gallon. You drive a car like that today and they give you a dirty look. Now it's cool to drive a Prius, an electric car.
Which I happen to drive.
There you go. And that's a reflection on your generation. That's to me a great sign of hope because I think your generation, the millennials especially, are starting to understand that, listen, we've got to protect this stuff.
So what does the Ron Magil Conservation Fund do?
The Ron Magil Conservation Endowment is something I came up with because, Tasia, I came to work at the zoo over 38 years ago, but I didn't come to work here to work for an attraction. I didn't come to work here to just have a place where people come see animals on exhibits and that's about it. I came here to work for a place that was going to make a difference to protect those animals in the wild. If we're going to spend millions of dollars on zoo exhibits and we don't allocate a certain percentage of that money to protecting those very animals in the wild, that's hypocrisy to me. That's not conservation. That's just entertainment. So by creating an endowment, and by definition, an endowment is a corpus of money that can never be touched. But that money produces dividends and interest that then can be used for certain things. And what that does is it guarantees, since that money's never touched, it's there forever. It keeps producing money. So I wanted to create this endowment to make sure that we're taking care of animals in the wild. All the proceeds from this endowment go to conservation of animals in the wild. Not anything at the zoo, not anything here on this property. It's not for any captive animals, any animals under human care, however you want to phrase it. It is for protecting animals in the wild. Because the saddest thing in the world would be if the zoo were the last place where you can see these animals.
Ron is a super amazing guy, and you can watch my full interview with him by going to the Over the Top News YouTube page. And now for our final segment, Tasia's Tidbit. One story that I think is very important but didn't get the attention it deserved in this week's news cycle. The College Board announced that it will be reducing the years covered in AP World History. In fact, the new curriculum will begin at the year 1450. Now this is a big deal. Imagine a world history class that did not include even one detail on the over 500-year life of the Roman Empire. That would be like if AP Biology didn't discuss evolution, or if health class wasn't full of bananas and condoms. It just isn't right. But thank you all so much for watching this inaugural episode of Over the Top News. I'll be back with weekly episodes starting in September. Until then, have a good summer.